Welcome to Computopedia, the place where we learn about computer science. Now we're going to learn about function, and this is part of the programming laboratory activities or programming for C++. So in this video, we're going to talk about function, and let's see. So function, what is a function? Well, if we learn about this, we know that a program is a set of functions. That means there are multiple functions in a program. Even in a C++, the main function is a function. This like the heart of the program itself is the function, and the interpreter will find the main function and then run the main function. The compiler will run the program, all of the commands inside the main function. That's why a program is a function. Now, so what are the definition of a function as a standalone function? Function is a set of code, or we can see here as a subprogram, because a program is a set of function, then a function is a subprogram, and it consists of a set of code that have the purpose of creating a modular program so that the code can be easily understood and reused. So like in programming language, in programming terminology, this is called as encapsulation. So we capsulize all of this code, a set of code, into just one name, and then if we want to use it, we can just call the name without the understanding or running the set of code itself. So by using that name, we can use it multiple times, and not in one place, but in other place as well. So now how do we declare the function? So this is the general syntax. We have the return value type. So this is quite similar when we create a variable inside of the C++. So we initiate the return value type first. So the data type, what are going to be here, then the function name, just like a variable name, and lastly we have the parameter list inside of this parenthesis over here, then the semicolon. We also have a function, this function prototype. So this is a function prototype without any definition of the inside of the function. This function prototype must be defined if the function is placed after the main or the call. So for example, here are the examples. We have the return value type, double, and then the function name, which is get area, and the parameter list. Of course, each parameter list has to be the data type for each variable, for each parameter. That's how we declare the function name, which is the prototype, as we can see, and then we can build the general syntax of a function without the prototype. We can do it just like this, but we must write it before the main, because obviously we want to use it on the main or maybe in other function as well. We must build the function or the prototype, so one or the other, before the calling itself. So these are the examples. The difference between the prototype and the function itself are the curly bracket over here and the inside of the curly bracket, which is the function body. which is the statement, which is the code, the set of code. Now we have a special type of function, which is a function without a return. So there is a function, if we see here, the expected return are double, and then we return something to the get area, and then it will be used for further program. But there is a type of function that doesn't have any return or void. Like the data type itself is a void. So this void function is a function that does not return a value. Well, of course. And then this function only run set of operation without the need of returning value to the caller. Sometimes when we do programming, we just want to like change things, or we just want to print something without any expecting any feedback result or output result, and that's why we use the void. Therefore, if we want to build this kind of function, rather than the return data type at the beginning of the syntax, we use void instead. So this is the example of this function without the return. So we see here that print message. So this print message is the function, and the data type of void. We can see here that we don't need to use a prototype function because the declaration of the function itself is already before the main, before the calling. So rather than before the main, it must be before the calling itself. So before the print message we have here, so we don't need to prototype. And then we can see here that the function of this function, it's quite recursive. That's fine. So the function of this function are just to print something, print that it is a function. We don't need any value. We don't get any parameter inside. We don't need to throw a value outside, and that's when we use the void. And at the other side of the function without the return, so there will be a function with return. Well, of course, it returns a value, and if it's return a value, the function must use the return syntax at the end of the statement. So not just the end, but I think at the center there will be fine, but there is some limitation about that as well. Maybe we will see. So these are the return syntax. We can just return and then some expression. Expression can be any value, can be variable, can be any calculation. That's all of the available expression. Let's see the example, the function with return. So we see here the function declaration over here. We do use the prototype because we write the function definition below the main, below the usage, because we will use it here, the get area, and then here as well, because at this time the function itself is not defined yet, because we already have this declaration at the top, and the system will find somewhere else. So here after the main we have the double get area. The expected output, the expected return value are double, and here are the statement, it's called the expression. So here are the expression, which is radius times pi, and then we will get the result. So here are the explanation about how to this call. So the caller, we run a function by calling the name. That's what we the terminology of the programming. So hopefully you understand this. So when we want to call a function, to just write the name and all of the like the parameter, the name and the parameter. This get area with radius 1 will return a value. So we have calculation of get area with radius 1, which is 1.1, 1.1 times 0.1 times pi. This will return a value. For example, like 1, maybe about 4. So return 4 here, the value here will return over here, like replacing the calling. So it's just like imagine that the value itself are replacing the call. So rather than we have get area and radius 1 over here, we have the value, the result value, which is 4, and then 4 are inputted to the area 1 variable. So this is the what it means by returning a value. If we call something and then like I want to call something in my hand, and then the process happens, and then the result is back on my hand, and then I can do whatever I want with the result, with the value result value. That's how the return works. So we can see here. So my calculation is not that far. Area 1 is 3.6 and so on. I think that's we still have, that's the function calling and then the example. We want to talk a little bit about the parameter of the function. There are two types of parameter on function in C++. The one is that pass by value, and the second one is pass by reference. So what are those? Let's see. The pass by value is that a variable that is used as parameter when a function is called and it will not change. So the value will not change if we use a variable as a parameter and we do something inside of that function. We do like we increment the parameter, we divide the parameter, and so on. It does not have effect on the root variable. So the variable itself are not changing because what the parameter in the function is a value copy. So the function will just copy the value of that parameter and then use it inside of the function. We just copy and then we leave that parameter, that variable alone. So this is the example. If we have here the increment, we want to add a number, we increment the number, we modify the parameter, even though we call like using the same name as the parameter, and then we return the number, but the n will not change. So before calling function, n is a, and after calling the function, n is still a, but the result is 9. So this is pass by value. We pass the parameter only the value without any like reference of it. That's the next point that we are going to talk about, and which is now. So now we're going to talk about the pass by reference. This is the other side of the coin of the pass by value. So variable that is used as parameter will or may, I say may because it may be not, will change when the function is called. I say it may be not because if the parameters are not being changed or anything, then nothing will change on the parameter on the variable side. So I write here as may. Pass by reference use the sign reference or the n sign right here in front of the variable name. So let's see the example. Before, we didn't have this n sign at the parameter, and that's passed by value. But if we add this sign, the n sign, then we know that the number itself is a pass by reference parameter. Therefore, if anything changes in the number itself, like we increment inside of the number variable, the number parameter over here, there will be change at the root variable, because we call here using the n, so the n over here we will change, and the result will be like this. So before the calling is 8, after the calling is 9. So after the modification over here, it got modified, and then the result is also 9. So this is pass by reference. In computer science terminology, the pass by value, we only copy the value, and then we change the value. That's no problem. But pass by reference, we copy the memory address. So if I want to change this memory address is like on the random access memory on the computer. If I want to change the value, and then everything that refer to this reference address, this address, will also change because the value is changing. If we just copy the value, like we create a new value but in a different address, so that's totally fine, nothing changed. But if we use pass by reference, and then we pass the address, and everything that changed inside the address applies in every variable that pointing to that address. So this is the theory behind the pass by reference. I hope you understand that. And I think that's the explanation about function, a little bit explanation about function in C++. I hope you understand more about this topic. Hopefully it helps. See you on the next video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and even comment if you have any question. Goodbye, and see you on the next video.